Hello, in this session we're going to talk and touch upon emotions. Oh my god, I hear people say emotions in business and leadership. Well, the world has changed a little bit, not that much. I still often don't put the E word up on a slide. I slip in an emotional conversation under the radar. I am deeply passionate about raising our emotional capacities and think not falling into old tropes about what emotions mean and what they don't mean. There's a huge amount of research in what people call affective neuroscience, affective psychology, affective neurobiology, and we are discovering amazing things about our emotional machinery, our emotional organic systems, and I'm going to share some of it with you now. It's really important. And people sometimes talk about leadership and emotional stuff as soft skills. There is nothing soft about them. They are where leadership succeeds or fails, particularly in fast changing environments, because there are no best products, there are just best stories about products. There are no great business models without people coming together and feeling safe and feeling trusted. And in fact, trust is something I have long seen is the lubricant of all transformation and innovation. And so as a consultant, part of my job at the beginning is just to build trust between me and the main clients, and then between the client and the other stakeholders needed to make anything happen, who often don't have much trust. In fact, they often have a lot of competitive stuff, bit of resentment, all that kind of stuff. So emotions are the royal road to leadership. So we've explored these two modes, control and protect mode, create and connect mode, and our job is to know when to hustle, double down, drive forward, get stuff done, nail things, and when to pause, reflect, reach out, include, listen, question, and imagine. And every day needs to be a balance between these two. Most people have 95% one, 5 if that of the other. However, if you have 95% creativity, reflection, pause, nothing will get done. There will be no revenue, there will be no income, there will be no surplus or profit, and the enterprise will die. So there is a healthy balance to find our way. So then you think, okay, great, I've got these two modes. I didn't need anything else. I'm off. Goodbye. But, and as you can see, it's a big but. There is a third brain network I've yet to mention, which sits across the brain, but it's deeply connected into the emotional parts of the brain, the amygdala, the basal ganglia, the dopamine networks, and it's called the salience network, and its job is to work out what's salient, what needs my attention right now. And therefore, what happens in the salience network essentially determines which of the other two brain networks we're in. We don't cognitively go, I'm going to be creative now. We have to emotionally find our way into a place where emotionally we feel that it's the salient thing to do, which is to be creative, collaborative, insightful, connective. So what does that look like? So the emotions that tend to drive us into control and protect mode are feeling disempowered, uncertain, exhausted, anxious, etc., etc., etc. And one of the big ones people underestimate in all change work is the fear of loss of status or reputation is often a huge driving force into the legacy mindset, into resistance. People can say, I want to change, I want to deliver a net positive strategy, let's be more purposeful, and da 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 da. But often it comes when you do deep qualitative research with them. It's because they fear a loss of reputation, a lot of status, loss of status, a loss of a sense of meaning, right, and purpose, particularly if you ask them to give up something they've done for a long time, or maybe their forebears have done for a long time, that is now unsustainable, we think, or unethical, we think, but it wasn't 100 years ago. So then we have these other emotions which will likely lead us into a more creative and connective place. And yes, I do have the L word, loved and loving, trusted and trusting, curious, courageous. Purpose is a great hack. But not just some mission statement that no one believes, a genuine, compelling, and socially or environmentally contributive purpose, sense of meaning and safety. So our job as leaders, you could summarize, is to find ways to help people come into this space more often. And then we're in control and protect mode, make sure they are protected from the toxic stress that can happen when you're in that mode. Now, emotions, people say, soft stuff. Well, this is actually from one of the most important researchers in emotional biology. At base, emotions are about the future, not the past. From an evolutionary standpoint, feeling pain or pleasure that can't change anything would be a useless waste of the brain's efforts. So people think about the emotions about the past. Well, yes, the past emotions affect our thinking, and we're going to talk about that in the next sesh. But actually, they're about the future, because we wouldn't waste all that emotional processing if it wasn't about what to do next. So the true benefit of emotions comes from their power to guide decisions about what to do next as a leader, right? So how do you feel right now about leading transformation in our ruthlessly and relentlessly changing world? How do you feel about leading adaptive processes, adaptive programs, the invention of new business models, going against the status quo, going against the resistance, dealing with climate change, dealing with poverty and precarity, injustice, dealing with COVID, long COVID, culture wars, the descent of our civic space into sectarianism, all whilst looking after your own family, friends, house, livelihood, legacy. Now notice if what comes to mind are thought words, not feel words. So a thought word is, I'm very interested in this. This is fascinating. A feeling word is confused, excited, passionate, worried. So I do this a lot, these workshops, and I have now got a pretty good read of a vast number of people, and what tends to come out of every group, no matter what industry, what country, what sector, what age, is a little bit of anxiety. It's quite worrying, this world, and a little bit of excitement. And of course, the balance between those two is going to determine the kind of leader we are. And if we allow ourselves to flip out on anxiety, even if we make it look clever and smart and powerful, we will err towards one mode more often, even when we need to be innovative. If we allow ourselves to be excited, we can get into a different mode. But if we become overexcited and over gushy and over possibility focused, again, nothing gets done. So again, it's about managing the emotional reality. So we have this amazing biology where our mindsets is rooted in emotion, not reason. Now, this is evolutionary brilliant, because I'm going to share with you the role that people think between negative emotions and what we might call positive emotions. Now, evolution didn't guide us to have negative emotions. There's no such thing as a negative emotion in nature or a positive emotion. There are some that feel pleasant and feel painful, but they're not negative or positive. We just have become used to calling them that. So negative emotions, frustration, anger, rage, fear, terror, anxiety, are a really fast and direct way to increase our survival chances. And now research has shown that our emotions cause us to act half a second before we are aware of our emotions. Just think about how good that is for survival. Now here's a snake. Let me tell you a little story. I was traveling through rural China, researching a book and fulfilling my interest in Taoist thinking, and also crouching tiger, hidden dragon type landscapes. I was in the middle of nowhere in the center of China, and I found one of the four Taoist mountains of China called Wudan Mountain, Wudanshan, and there was a whole network of Taoist temples, really like coming out of a movie. And yet when I got there, I discovered that it had been kind of touristified by the Chinese government for domestic tourists. And they were like, here's, you can buy your sword, here's the temple. And I just wasn't feeling it. So I just wandered out the back of one of the temples and just wandered off into the mountain, going through some villages, waving at stunned locals, one of the things I've loved to do traveling around the world. And then suddenly I find myself heart beating and moving away from the path. no conscious thought about this. I looked in the other direction and there was a massive snake doing exactly what I was doing in the opposite direction, trying to avoid me. That was the power of my negative emotions to save my life, right? So before I could have thought about, I need to move, I'd already moved. This is the stress response. My autonomic nervous system was geared up to fight, but I was actually flighting. I used predictable things, which is running away. On the other hand, I also got tunnel thinking, tunnel memory, tunnel focus. So what happens with these emotions is, this has all been shown in different studies, we can only remember things like that from the past. So we get tunnel thinking. So we're now projecting onto what we're seeing, what happened in the past, not necessarily what's happening now. That's particularly important in social threats rather than actual survival threats. We get tunnel memory, and we get tunnel focus. Literally, our field around us can't be seen. We're looking, and you know what it looks like when you're in that place, and when your boss or your co-worker or when your shareholders are in that place. You can sense their eyes. We're very good at sensing other people's tunnel vision. And actually, regular stress causes the amygdala, the emotion processing part of our brain that's most tuned to fear, to grow. So we actually have some capacity to expand or decrease how much negative emotion we experience. Now imagine that most of us don't actually experience actual threats to our survival very often. Maybe driving, maybe crossing the road, maybe, occasionally walking in the nature. Most of the threat we experience is social threat, yet this is the same system that we're having. The summary of this is it's biologically impossible to be agile and creative and innovative when in the stress response, because we're not thinking about agile, creative, and innovative. We're thinking about getting away or fighting something. So in this moment where we think something like this is a brilliant postcard I've been using for years by a cartoonist called David Shrigley. He's got great books and stuff. Catch the ball. If you drop the ball, you'll lose your job and your wife/husband/ whatever will leave and take the kids. If that's your kind of general kind of concern, what happens is we lose create and connect. So we lose create, first of all. We get tunnel memory. We get stuck in old habits. We cannot think innovative thoughts. But as important, connect disappears. So why do we want connect? Because connect is where we get insight into customers, from empathy, from listening, from trying to understand their world and then solving their problem. Remember, business, institution, enterprise is all about solving problems for people they can't solve themselves. If we don't have any insight into what their problems are, then we can't solve them, and therefore we have a more risk of being disrupted out of the industry. So the so-called positive emotions then are thought to be what people call, rather than fight and flight, there's broaden and build. So we broaden our networks, we build bridges with each other. So we open up complex problems, self-solution and collaboration. And the positive emotions have been shown to drive creativity, inventiveness, blah, 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 sense of humor. And so we need these positive emotions for agility and adaptability. So I've been banging this drum for a very long time, often to a frosty reception of control and protect mode, thinking I'm crazy, tree hugging, drum bashing hippie or something like that. And then McKinsey came along, and I always like to bring my erstwhile competitors into the mix. Employees are what they think, feel and believe in. As managers attempting to drive performance, control and protect mode, by changing the way employees behave, they all too often neglect the thoughts, feelings and beliefs that in turn drive behavior. So it's really important to understand emotions. So the third question in the transformation mindset, what kind of problem do I face? What kind of problem solving? Do I want control and protect mode or create and connect mode? And therefore, what kind of emotional state do I need to be in and my people need to be in to solve the problem in that mode? Another way of saying, if you want to do things differently, you have to think different, as Steve Jobs told us, which means feeling differently in the workplace, in the office, in the workshop. Now, if you think, well, we don't really need emotions because I'm a rational human being. Well, a wonderful neuroscientist called Antonio Damasio, one of my neuroscience heroes, did a study and took people with severe brain lesions in the emotion processing part of their brain, and they can't even make the simplest rational choice. We need emotions to have reason. We need decisions, we need emotions, and for emotions we need reason. And in fact, he said the conventional contrast between affect, which is emotion, and reason comes from a narrow conception of emotions and feelings as largely negative. This is a legacy mindset around emotions and capable of undermining our genius, our Greek reason and facts and rational thought. In reality, most emotions and feelings are essential to power the intellectual and creative process.